Hey, 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 Chica! Welcome to the Lovelda Show Women of Power podcast, the show where women share their personal power tools, the techniques, strategies, and ways of being which have enabled their business and life success. I'm your host, Lovelda Vincenzi, a female speaker mentor, speaker, and event host on a mission to unleash authentic, powerful female voices onto the world. In today's episode, we'll be uncovering the power tools of Suzanne Armstrong. Suzanne is an internationally recognized speaker, award-winning talent development expert, and author of Confidence for Life, 9 Secrets for Setting Yourself Free. In the last 20 years plus, Suzanne has spoken in over 40 countries, developed and trained over 500 workshops, and helped over 150,000 people around the world transform their personal and professional lives. Her clients include some of the largest companies in the world, and she has a secret. Homelessness, addiction, and abuse at the hands of a notorious motorcycle gang are not what you'd expect to find behind a successful talent development expert. But they are the circumstances that taught Suzanne how many ways we are responsible for creating our own reality. While your story might be different, the feelings and behaviors we use are all the same, and what we believe to be right and possible are all the same. In recovering from her self-destructive lifestyle, Suzanne quickly realized that what she had was a thinking problem, that everything that she believed to be true about herself and how to get along in the world was wrong, and she needed to rewire her thought process. So she embarked on a mission to learn everything that she could about how to interact with herself and the world around her. What she didn't know was that she was developing her emotional intelligence. Susan Armstrong inspires people to look past their own self-limiting beliefs and take action to achieve the levels of personal and professional success previously unattainable. Whether you are a leader, individual contributor, or entrepreneur, she is a powerful mirror for what is truly possible if we just set ourselves free from our faulty thinking and beliefs. Well, this is part 2 of a 2-parter, and so if you missed the first part, I suggest that you go back and listen to that before jumping into this one. Suzanne's journey to success had me hooked, and frankly, there was just far too much to cram into a single episode, so we had to split this one into 2. Remember that all of the links that are shared in this show and the previous one are in the show notes. The only way to make sure that you don't miss another 2-parter, like catch one part and forget the second part, is to hit that subscribe button right now to make sure that you get notified anytime a new show is added. Well, I've taken up more than enough time. We are smack bam in the middle of a juicy conversation. So, shall we dive back in? Let's get on with the show. Hey, Chica, welcome back to the Lovelda Show Women of Power podcast. It was just getting juicy in the last episode, I'm not going to lie. So if you are, let me just remind you where we left this off. So you need to go back and listen to the previous episode if you did not listen to it. This is why you must be subscribed, peeps, because the stuff we were spinning out. So I am here again with the incredible Suzanne Armstrong. Love this woman to bits. Her journey to where she is today is like breathtaking. You're writing a book or something, right? Please tell me you're putting this in a book or selling it to Hollywood. Like, we need to see this. It's like the Pursuit of Happiness, but the female version.
Well, that's true. It kind of is like the Pursuit of Happiness. Yes. So I have written 2 books. One is called An Invisible Prison, which is the story of, all the horrible stuff and how I ended up there and what was going on in my head. And then it's written like a novel. So it's easy to read because it's written like a novel. So there's a lot of talking in there. And then the second one is called Confidence for Life. And it answers the question that everybody asks, including you, Lovelda. How did you get from there to here? So Confidence for Life is actually the story of all of the things that I did and the techniques that I used to build up my own self-esteem and confidence to create the life that I have today.
And both of those links are in the show notes, peeps. So click on them if you want to hear, there's only so much we can cover in this show, let's be honest. So if you really, if you've been inspired by what you've heard so far in the previous episode and what we're going into today, and you think I really maybe you're in the dark places Suzanne was in, or maybe you just have those moments where you're feeling unfulfilled and it's just like, ugh, and you're ready to kind of get that va boom spirit for life. Read both of those books, cover to cover, scribble in them if you need to, like take your notes. Don't just take it in, like take your notes. So Suzanne, like I have got to ask you the question I ask all of my guests, and especially because I love to always preface it, preface, that's the word, with people's stories, because it gives context to the answer to this particular question. And I am like, I'm kind of sat here on with bated breath for your response to this, because especially given your journey, what is it that you think makes a woman powerful?
Well, yeah, experience tells me that it is, first of all, believing in ourselves. Okay, so
Mm.
again, my experience, and I don't think I'm alone in this. So we give away so much of our power. How many of us, and a lot of us do this, we compare our insides with other people's outsides. Okay, especially as women. So I'm depressed. I feel horrible. I feel worthless. But look at Lovelda. She's gorgeous. She's always put together. She's always smiling and happy. And it makes me feel worse. But I'm comparing apples and oranges. I'm
Mm-hmm.
comparing her outside to the way she's presenting herself to the way I feel inside. And for all I know, Lovelda's going through depression or having personal problems or financial. I mean, I don't know what's going on behind the facade, but
Yeah.
I do know that we all wear that facade. And the problem is we measure our insides by somebody else's outsides, and it's just not fair. And I think we give away a lot of our power like that. And it's nobody is doing it to us. We do it to ourselves
That is
when we
so true.
compare like that. Yeah. We worry way too much about what other people think. You know, we worry about what our parents think, about what our kids think, about what our spouse thinks, about our coworkers, and certainly in some areas of the world, it's almost like it's a cultural thing where your success is measured by the car you drive, the holidays you go on, and how many hours you spend at work. Come on, that's not powerful. That's living a lie, and certainly not powerful. So I think that we give away our power a lot, and we need to pull that back. The only opinion that matters is yours, and the only time you can be happy is when you can look at yourself in the mirror at the end of the day and say, I'm proud of what I did today. I'm proud of who I am. When you can love yourself and look at yourself in a mirror, that's powerful. So that's actually self-esteem, that's confidence, and that's where power comes from.
Being able to your own self in the mirror and be
Mm-hmm.
happy with yourself, not pleasing everybody else. And you could say that. I mean, you're a recovering people pleaser.
I am. And so, yeah, so this is, and that's why I say I'm saying this from experience. This isn't from study. I mean, I did it backwards. I experienced all this stuff and then went and studied what I did. I made
Then you
myself
went,
better and then
that all
figured
makes
out
sense now.
why. Yeah, yeah. Um, so I had a psychologist once tell me, "Oh, you created cognitive behavioral therapy for yourself," and I thought, "Oh, I did? Okay, look at me go." Never even heard the term before, but apparently I did it. So
You're like, I worked it out all by myself.
I
I'm so
did.
smart. You're like, I've got the street smarts and the book smarts. Don't worry, I can take it from both angles. And that is
Yeah.
so powerful in terms of often what I can see us doing is not just that kind of comparison, but in the comparison, often what I see happens is we forget our own power in that, right? Like it's like all of these gifts that I have that are amazing are not as amazing because I'm now looking at Suzanne and I'm like, I don't have a big life story. Like my life story is I was quite comfortable actually. I didn't have any of those problems. So now what am I supposed to talk about on stage? Because I can't talk, do you know what I mean? But I do see that side of things quite often where that internal external comparison also becomes what they've got is really, really good and amazing and phenomenal. And look at everything they've got. I have nothing.
Yeah. Uh, so I'm going to say something that might sound a bit odd, but I remember once, some years ago now, I remember once I was involved in a group, again, just always constantly working on myself, trying to get better and I remember being involved in a group, and one of the women in there, she said, she said, all you have to do is walk into a room and you automatically win. I was like, what are you talking about? She said,
What
because
does
your
that
story,
mean?
well, yeah, this is why I'm bringing this up. She said, because your story is just so much worse than anybody else's. Nobody can beat your story. And it was like, whoa, this is backwards, wrong, and twisted. We shouldn't be comparing pain, right? Because it doesn't matter what the circumstances are, the feelings are the same. So it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't matter if, so yeah, what happened to me versus, well, um, I can look at, my sister who grew up in the same house that I did, who grew up pretty much the same way that I did. She didn't go the same direction that I did,
Mm-hmm.
but she has the same pain.
Yeah.
Okay. Her choice was to get married to somebody that she thought would be a good provider and a good father, and then get divorced after 36 years because she had to confess that she never loved him. She
Mm-hmm.
just did it because that's what she was raised to do. So, the circumstances are different, but the pain is the same. So we don't get to compare stories like that because the pain is the same. Does that make
So
sense?
just focus on yourself and stop worrying about what everybody else is up to, what
Yeah,
they thinking, what their pain is, what their pain isn't, what
yeah,
their house look like, what you think. You don't know. You're not in their head.
that's it.
Focus in on yourself. So this
So,
next mean question that, don't worry, I ask everybody the same mean question. It's like the premise of the show is the mean question. And for you, I'm very excited question. So if we were to take all of your successes that you've had in both life and business, like take the whole thing, and we were to boil that down, like what made you successful, into literally just three things, three tools or techniques or ways of being that you would say have been absolutely fundamental to what has made you the woman you are today. And the transformation, ladies, the transformation is real. like we're talking like da, 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 like what do you want to call it, like back in the day where you'd walk, there used to be these TV programs where they'd go behind Stars in Your Eyes, it was called here in the UK, and they go behind this screen and they'd come out as a different person. That was
uh,
Suzanne.
yeah, no, that's pretty true. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't like an overnight thing. It was a journey for sure. But yeah, that's pretty true. Because, like I said, people who look at me today, who know me today, would never put that book, An Invisible Prison. They would never know that it's my life story ever.
No,
Yeah.
they'd have said, what a wonderful novel.
Well, they do. Yeah, most people do. It's because it's written like a novel. So I get all kinds of emails saying, "Oh, I was up all night." I'm like, "Well, why?" They said, "Because I couldn't put the book down and I was yelling at the book, 'Don't do it, don't do it.'" So apparently, it's quite the experience. I don't know. Okay.
Get the
um,
book. So if we were to boil it down to three things then,
yeah. So
what would be your three things? Let's start with your first one.
okay. So it's not a difficult answer at all. Like I said, because I've had to live this. So if nothing else, I'm proof of this. And it actually goes back to what we were talking about. What makes a powerful woman? It's the self-esteem. It's the
Mm-hmm.
confidence. If you look at powerful women, they are confident. They're not worried about what other people think. And by the way, confidence isn't loud. Okay, I'm not talking about arrogance and talking about how great you are and all the wonderful. That's loud, right? That's arrogance. Confidence is quiet, meaning there's no emotional leakage. So I hope
Mm-hmm.
that makes sense. Um,
It's not something you have to tell people about. It's kind of
right,
like the person who says, I'm I've got such integrity. Normally the person who says that the most, you think, really? Really?
yeah,
Why do you have to keep telling me? If it's there, I'll feel
yeah.
it.
Exactly. And on the flip side, it is not also loud, but in an opposite way. It's not swallowing your feelings, right, or
Mm-hmm.
swallowing your ideas. It's the confidence to speak up, to share wants, needs, ideas, and opinions, not to swallow them for fear of hurting somebody else, because that's loud as well. Eventually, that resentment comes out, and
Mm-hmm.
people can feel it. You know, so first and foremost, I would say it's about that confidence, that belief in yourself, that self-esteem, that what I said before, and being able to look at yourself in the mirror. I think secondly is the outlook, is an outlook, a positive outlook. I have too many examples of this in my own life, but self-fulfilling prophecy is absolutely a real thing.
Yeah.
So whatever you believe, that negative self-talk, whatever you believe, you will bring to fruition. You will create it. So if we've got an outlook that, I'm a horrible person, I'm never going to fit in, I'm not going to get the promotion, I can't speak on stage, who would listen to me, I can't write a book, who would want to read the book? If we believe that, then we're actually creating that self-fulfilling prophecy. So we've got to turn that around, because if my story does nothing else, it should prove, it should serve as a marker for people to say what is actually possible in this
Hmm.
world if we open our minds to it. So
Yeah.
that was the whole thing. Those years I said that I embarked on only saying yes. I was terrified. But the point is that I wasn't doing the usual talking myself out of it, finding all the reasons it could go wrong. I mean, there were certainly many reasons, and I could have talked myself out of that in a second, but it
Hmm.
chose not to. So I think it's about choosing, um, and being careful what we project out into reality, because we're going to live into that and create that,
That
manifest
is
that to being into being, right?
that is such a big thing. There's a book I read years ago. It's a very famous book, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And love that book. But there's a particular in the book, there's a particular story she tells when it comes to making choices. I mean, the title of the book is the book, right? But you should read it. It's really, really good if you're one of these people who's always got something that stops you from doing things. I was on holiday. I read the whole thing cover to cover. Excellent book. And one of the things she talks about in there is this idea of wanting to make the right decision and kind of going round and round in circles to figure the right decision out. And she describes it as, listen, there's no such thing as a right decision or a wrong decision. There's just different experiences. If you pick A, you're going to have that experience. And if you pick B, you'll have a different experience. It doesn't mean one experience is better than the other and one is more valid than the other. They're just different experiences. And so I know for me, it was really helpful to look at, kind of take the pressure off making the right decision when you can kind of go, so what experience do I want to choose? like
Exactly.
just that kind of change of language sometimes, and catching yourself out when, I sometimes find it helpful to position a question rather than a statement. So rather than saying, oh, this is going to be really hard and really difficult, to almost position it as a question, like, what can I do that would make it really fun and really easy? Because that's what I want. And at least my brain can then go into finding things to like support that. Whereas
Yeah,
if I say it's going to be hard and difficult, I'm just sat here now waiting for hard and difficult to come punch me in the face. And
exactly.
I don't like hard, nor do I like difficult. It's just, no, I don't need it. Mm.
And no, you're right. It's about reframing, and it's about how we look at it. So, I don't ever see things as problems, or I mean, I see them as problems or challenges, but they don't take me down, because I've chosen to see that as an opportunity, right? I
Mm-hmm.
love to solve problems. That's the one thing I love. I love nothing more than a good challenge. So it doesn't matter what it is. In my head, I can just say, right, so this is a good challenge for me to solve, and I'm going to solve this challenge. And then I can be proud of myself after I do. So I
Yeah.
don't see it as a negative thing. I think problems are, I don't know, maybe it's old cliche, I'm not sure, but it's coming in my brain. Problems are opportunities that need to be solved. It's just how we look at it, right?
I completely agree. And I think I say to people, beliefs aren't true, because if they were true, it'd be like gravity, right? So if I hold a pen up, open my hand, it drops down.
Yeah,
But if a belief were true, if I believe money was hard to make, everybody else would believe money was hard to make, and money would be hard to make for everybody universally. It's not true. So if it's not true, why am I picking one I don't want
yeah,
when I could pick whichever one I want in the shop? It's like,
yeah,
why am I going to pick the thing that I really don't want? So there's an awareness to that. People hear positivity and it's like, just think the opposite. And I don't think it's that. It's an awareness of, are the thoughts I'm having right now helping and serving me? And if they're not, you have a choice. You can continue to think them. You'll
absolutely.
probably continue to get the same shizzle you don't want, but that's a choice.
It is.
I respect
So
that choice. Or
let
you
me
can
give you
choose to take something else on. Yes, please do.
let me give you an example. And because you bring up a good point, right? The Pollyanna kind of false positivity. That's not at all, I think, what I'm suggesting. Not at all.
No.
I'm suggesting to find a different way to look at things. And you're right about beliefs. The unfortunate part is our beliefs are become our reality. So beliefs are true to the person who holds the belief. And that's
Hmm.
the thing that we've got to watch. So years ago, I had major surgery. It was very major surgery. And it was supposed to be about a 6 week recovery. Well, it was 2 years. I
Oh,
had,
ouch.
I had every problem, right? Every problem that they warned me about, and some they had never seen. So there are parts of my body in medical journals because they'd never seen these complications before. And
That's leaving your mark.
I know for a fact what got me through that was because, I could have gone into doom and gloom, right? Why did I do this? Why is this happening to me? This isn't fair. But I didn't. I didn't. I knew I had the surgery for the right reason. It was absolutely the right thing to do. And all of these things that came up were just tests. It was just a test. And
Mm-hmm.
I was adamant I was going to pass the test. And I did. But it's only because of my attitude towards it. I refused to let it take me down, which it could have, but
Yeah.
I got tired after 6 weeks and I said, screw this, I'm going back to work. I actually got on an airplane and flew across the country with drains hanging out of my
You
side.
did not.
I was in the toilet emptying all the stuff out of the drains and then clipping it. Oh, yes, I did. Yes, I did. Yeah, I went to work high on prescription painkillers and right out of the hospital for procedures because I decided that I, could either, and it's the same with anything, right? I could choose to let it define me and I could become, the
A
illness
sick
and the
person
problem.
who's ill
Mm-hmm.
and this
Yeah,
this is who I am.
yeah. Or I could choose to say, this is something I have right now, but that's not who I am. And I'm going to continue down the road of who I am. And that's the choice I made. And so that brings me to the third thing, actually, is this idea of emotional intelligence. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that that is a secret weapon for success. And it's the thing I did not grow up with. So I grew up with absolutely no coping skills at all. Feelings were not allowed in my house. So I had nowhere to express them. I didn't know what to do with them. I didn't know how to manage anger or frustration or anything. I couldn't even express happiness because heaven forbid it should make someone jealous. So, they just weren't allowed in my house.
Yeah.
And so unbeknownst to me in studying all the self-esteem and the communication and the rewiring my brain, what I was actually doing was I was developing emotional intelligence, the most important pillar of which is self-awareness. And I honestly believe that's a massive, the self-esteem and confidence, the self-awareness are massive markers for success. And studies will back this up, that
Mm-hmm.
typical intelligence will only get you so far. The emotional intelligence is what goes from good to great, right? It's what pushes you over the top. But the emotional intelligence is the self-awareness to recognize all of the stuff that we've been talking about. It's the thing I didn't have. But when I developed it, then all of a sudden I start to understand how I got myself into that position, right? I can feel, I feel in my body the discomfort and I can say, okay, what am I feeling? And where is this coming from? And I can identify those old triggers, those old imprinted conditioning thoughts, the tapes that run over and over again and say, okay, this is what's happening. Is that real? No. It's not even my voice. It's my mother's voice or it's my father's voice. So thank you very much, but I'm not listening to that. And I'm going to go ahead and do this. So developing that emotional intelligence and the self-awareness, which brings with it the confidence and the self-esteem, to me, that's what makes a powerful woman. And that's the secret to success. To me, that's it, because that's all I did, right? So I don't think I'm any different than anybody else. But what makes me different is the fact that I was going to die. So I had to not only actively study this stuff, but I had to apply it in my own life and continue to develop this. And that's, I think, what makes the difference. It's what's made the difference for me.
And where can somebody start in terms of developing emotional intelligence? So for people who are listening, because there's people who think they're emotionally intelligent, they ain't quite there yet. Like, I'll be honest, I can hold my hands up, like before I get letters or emails or whatever, tweets and whatever you want to send me saying, where's the judgment? Yeah, I'm a judge. And I will also hold my hands up and say there have been moments where I've done some dumb crap too, where I have, my emotional intelligence was switched off, or, I put it on mute while I went ahead and had the stupid rant I wanted to have. So I think there's two things in there. The first is, what do we mean by emotional intelligence? Is it purely self-awareness? How do we define emotional intelligence? And the second thing is, for those who are listening and they're ready to do something different, they're in a space they're not happy in, and they want to start that shift, and they're thinking, okay, if this awareness and emotional intelligence is the thing that I need to understand, is there an exercise or a resource or something that would help to get that process started?
Oh, absolutely. There's plenty of them. There's plenty of resources out there. Emotional intelligence is actually a bit hard to define, so it's probably a show in and of itself. But think about it this way. We're programmed, our subconscious is programmed by people outside of ourselves. All
Mm-hmm.
right. So our logical, rational brain when we're born isn't actually functioning. You know, you often will see parents look at their kids and say, well, what were you thinking? Well, the truth is they weren't thinking because they don't have the capacity.
They're just processing.
It's a completely emotional response,
Yeah.
right? Like babies communicate through crying or smiling. They communicate through body language. They don't have language skills yet, but they can still communicate. So point is, to try and make this short, we're pretty much programmed by people outside of ourselves before we're even aware that this programming has happened. And then this programming actually guides our thoughts, our decisions, our actions, our choices. It guides everything. Remember, I told you the story, right, about my conditioning, and when you get married, you stay married. When you join a job, okay, that wasn't conscious. That was something that was programmed subconsciously into me, and I didn't even know that I was living by that. So emotional intelligence is how aware are you of what's actually running you? So when you get angry, are you aware of why you're angry? You know, people will say, well, it's not my fault. Lovelda made me angry. Not possible. Not possible. Lovelda nor anybody else has the power to make us happy, sad, frustrated, angry, or anything else. Only we do. So it's what button was pushed. You know, where has this anger come from? So emotional intelligence is really being smart about understanding our own emotions, how we're programmed, and, what is it that's actually guiding our life. Right? I can talk about perfectionism and people pleasing. I can catch myself. And by the way, emotional intelligence isn't about perfect. So I don't know you can get a perfect score. You can get higher or lower. The good news is you can develop it. But it's about, I can recognize when I'm uncomfortable and I sort of turn inwards and say, okay, what's happening? Damn, it's the people pleasing thing again. I'm trying to make 6 people happy and I'm getting in the, I think, okay, I've got to stop, and then I have to fight with myself because it's such an ingrained program with me, the people pleasing and the perfection. It's so ingrained that I have to actively work to stop that. But that's emotional intelligence, right?
It's being able to catch it out and say, well, the stress was caused by me because I made a decision that was really that thing about pleasing somebody. So I kept saying yes, and now I'm back, oh, shoot, I did it again. And it's interesting you say that, because I had a coach once, and it was like every time my business grew and I grew, I was like, girl, have I not got over this stuff yet? Like, you didn't coach me well enough. It keeps coming back. And she said, it's just shadows. Because it's so ingrained culturally through your parents, through whatever it is, it's that ability to notice it playing out and stop the record. Like, just kind of go, maybe we're not playing that one anymore. Senior.
Exactly. Yeah. Develop new neural pathways, right? So the thoughts go up a different pathway versus the old one. I don't know that the old ones ever go away, but they get easier to manage and they get easier to recognize. But it doesn't happen without conscious effort, right? Without focus and conscious effort in working on it. And there's tons of resources out there, Lovelda. I mean, my book, Confidence for Life, basically, it's about emotional intelligence and all of the activities and the exercises that I created for myself that allowed me to start to develop that self-esteem and identify the conditioning that I was living under and how did I remove that and rewire that. So that's actually what my book is about, even though it's called Confidence. And then certainly all you have to do is put emotional intelligence into a web browser and you will be inundated with months worth of articles to read and suggested books. Daniel Goleman was the gentleman who coined the term emotional intelligence. So, there's been plenty of research on it prior to that. Like I said, I started before Daniel Goleman was around talking about emotional intelligence and I was studying it. But he's the one that coined the phrase. he writes great books about emotional intelligence at work. So, there's not short of resources on that topic because it is the biggest thing lacking in organizations today.
I think anybody wanting to, well, if you're running an organization and you're thinking, whoa, we got some people who could do with just noticing what they be doing, you need to give Suzanne a call. She travels all around the world, by the way, so it doesn't really matter where in the world you are, you can get her in. She loves to travel. Looking forward to getting back on said next plane. So do get in touch. All of the links, again, are in the show notes. So we will put links to both of Suzanne's books in there as well. Click on them, get them, start to really develop your emotional intelligence, because it is like, I mean, honestly, look what it can do. It's transformative. OMG. Look, see, you're so good. We had to do a double bill because there was no chance we were going to get all of this into one. So I'm going to see if you can help me kind of summarize. Like, how do we want to wrap this up today? Like, if there was one thing that you could really leave people with from these two episodes, and if you didn't hear the first episode, I really encourage you to go back and listen to the first episode. This is why you should be subscribed to the channel, like, honestly. And if you subscribed, you should be getting notifications. Like, if you're watching us and you like click the bell so you get notified, just by way of reminder. But how would you really like to help us, or what one thing would you like people to be left with from the discussion that we've had across these two episodes? Because there's a lot in it.
Yeah, I think there's actually more than one. So if I can have two, the first one is, stop beating yourself up. There is no such thing as perfect. There's no such thing as right. We're all unique and different. We're entitled to our own opinions, feelings, and ideas. And I promise you are not alone. You think you're alone, but you're not. Whatever it is you're feeling or you're experiencing, there's somebody else who's had those feelings, who's had those experiences. So we have to stop thinking that we're alone and it's just us. That's not true. Secondly, the best thing you can do for yourself and for everybody else in your life is to really focus on your own self-esteem. And I think that as women in particular, we're bombarded with, we have to be everything to everybody all the time. We have to be mother and teacher and, spouse and sister and daughter and employee and leader and, chief accountant and, that's a lot. So take it easy on yourself. Really look at, what makes you happy. Stop comparing yourself against your friends on Facebook or LinkedIn or your neighbors, because you have no idea what's going on behind the scenes there, and start focusing on your own confidence and your own self-esteem. I promise that it is the secret weapon to success. The sooner you stop worrying about what everybody else thinks and start worrying about what you think about your life, the quicker you're going to rise up.
Whoa, just that last line alone. The sooner you stop worrying about what everybody else thinks about you and your life, and you start focusing on what you want and what you think, the sooner you're going to really be happy. And if that is the only thing that you take from these two episodes, focus on you, focus on your own self-esteem, focus on building yourself up, and don't worry about what everybody else is doing. It ain't none of your business. This has been, Suzanne, you've been absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. This has been the Lovelda Show Women of Power podcast. If you aren't subscribed, hit that subscribe button, and I will see you in the next episode. Ciao, chicas.